just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
Welcome to Sportscaster News. I'm Lawrence Owen, and as usual, I am here with my cohorts, Ray, Rauth, and Joe Noobo.
Yes, sir.
So today, we're going to discuss a little bit about the first, second, and third-year quarterbacks in the NFL. And we're going to decide, who's going to be the best in the group. But my biggest question right now is Daniel Jones. We all know that he played decently last year for the Giants. I mean, he did. He played pretty good. But he had a very specific problem. 17 fumbles for a quarterback is astronomical problem.
It is.
And he's right now going with he's been working out with his college coach, working on, pocket drills. And another issue that I have noticed, something that helps out a lot with quarterbacks fumbling the football. Obviously, you got to have both hands on the football. When you start scrambling, and you see quarterbacks immediately, the arm drops that's holding the football, and he's running like this without two hands on the football.
Right. If
you're in the pocket, you can't do that because anyone could just reach out and slap that football right the heck out of your hand, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you got to pay attention. You always, while you're in the pocket, you need both hands on that, and you need a proper release, right? When you are making a big, long release, that is a long period of time from where a defender can just reach around. Those pass rushers can reach around and slap that ball out of your hand. Where, some of the quicker releases, like, I don't know if you've noticed, but Jacob Eason has got a very, very fast, quick release. And it's just instantaneous. It goes up to the ear and then straight out.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, I think, needs to work a little bit on that and needs to remember that when he's moving around the pocket, scrambling, trying to avoid pressure, he's got to keep both hands on that football while he's looking down. Not just understanding the pressure around him, but it's just got to get second nature to him. This is the NFL. This isn't college. Things move a lot faster. So we're going to go over to Ray here, since he's over here to my right, and, well, technically my left, but everybody else is right. What do you think about?
Listen, Daniel Jones is a guy who I have a lot of faith in, as you guys are, as I think you're both very aware of. But I also believe that Daniel Jones never, ever, ever, ever should have played a snap of football last season. The New York Giants were in a position where they weren't going to win. They had the worst, from a protection rating, the worst offensive line in the National Football League. And for me, it was you weren't going to win no matter how great Daniel Jones played, even if he was Patrick Mahomes-esque. The Giants as a team were not in a position to be successful. You had Eli Manning, who, yes, is not the Eli Manning from 2011 when he won Super Bowl MVP, but he was an experienced veteran quarterback who Jones could have watched. Kudos to Eli, how he handled that whole situation last year, didn't cause a problem, mentored the young kid, realized he wasn't a starter anymore, retired after the season. It didn't cause a big kerfuffle in New York. A lot of people like to say a lot of bad things about Eli Manning, but the guy has always handled himself with class. And I'll say this to you, and this might offend Lawrence, but out of all the Mannings, Archie, Peyton, and Eli to me has always been the classiest of the three. Not that the other guys aren't class, but Eli has always been the classiest of the three. Not the best of the three, but the classiest of the three. That being said, you've got a young quarterback who already had a ton of pressure on him. Let's not pretend for a second that the New York media embraced drafting Daniel Jones. They didn't. I remember Max Kellerman's big, long rant about how awful of a draft pick it was. The New York Times ripping him apart. The Post ripping him apart. Nobody in New York wanted Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. I fully admit I was not a Daniel Jones supporter until I watched the kid play. And then I said, you know what? There's potential here. But I also said to a lot of people, if New York believes that's their guy, the situation that they're in, Sit him for a season. I don't understand why teams feel the need to rush a quarterback when you don't have to. I'll look at another team this year like the Cincinnati Bengals and say the same thing. Why not keep Andy Dalton for one more season, allow Joe Burrow to adjust into the NFL? Are the Bengals going to make the playoffs this year? They're not. What's the point?
No.
What's the point if you're not going to make the playoffs? Allow them to transition. All the greats have done it. Do you think Patrick Mahomes, after he won Super Bowl MVP, was sitting at home thinking, oh, man, I wish I would have played that first season behind Alex Smith? No, he's a league MVP and a Super Bowl MVP. Now, Daniel Jones is not at Patrick Mahomes levels. We know that, and I'm never going to mistake him to be there. But when you are a young quarterback trying to adapt to the NFL and you have the worst offensive protection in the NFL, you know what? Sometimes just running for your life means more to you than holding on to that football, right? And let's not forget, it's bigger, faster, stronger guys barreling in on you, and that can shake a kid. I hope that New York didn't ruin them last year, because we've seen it when guys take beatings like that, but also have those mistakes, the fumbles, the interceptions, whatever it may go, they never recover. If Daniel Jones can recover and protect that football a little bit better, I have a lot of faith in the kid that he could be an adequate, good quarterback in the NFL. Again, he's not going to be on my top 10 futures list, but I think that he can be an admirable starting quarterback in the NFL.
Well, Lawrence, let me ask you before I start. Those 17 fumbles you mentioned, are they all lost, or were they some of them not recovered?
Like almost, I think 14 or 15 of them were.
Okay, so let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say about 14 fumbles lost. Guys, that's not good. Throw on top of that 12 interceptions. That's putting your football team in danger. I understand he's a young guy. He should not have been playing. I agree with you on that, Ray. I agree with you on that point. But I feel like the problem is with a lot of fans, we fall into this trap when we get a young quarterback. And I am also very, guilty of this as well. You overlook the bad plays and just look at the good things that they do and be like, oh, he's got potential. I saw him do something that I like. I think he will be good. Just give him time. I mean, I feel like that's what the Giants fans are doing right now. And it's not to say that Daniel Jones is not going to come out and have a huge improvement in year 2. Absolutely possible, especially with how much I hear that he's working hard and everything, which is great. He should be doing that if he wants to get better. And I'm sure he knows that there's a lot of things he has to improve upon. So I'm glad he's out there working hard. So all I'm saying is that I was not a believer in Daniel Jones, and I don't believe that he's done anything to prove me wrong so far. So I'm still not going to be a believer of him. I just got to say that. That's how I feel about Daniel Jones. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, he didn't win like league MVP or anything. So, but you also got to remember, Jones didn't have the best supporting cast in the world. I mean, some of these other guys that we're going to end up talking about here pretty soon had some pretty impressive supporting casts.
Yeah.
I mean, he had most of his wide receivers were hurt at least 5 games.
I just wonder if the Giants had actually taken Dwayne Haskins like everybody expected them to, and then Daniel Jones had gone to the Redskins, for example, you would hear Giants fans talking up Dwayne Haskins, if he had the same type of season Daniel Jones had. I feel like I just think it's the Giants fans putting themselves in that trap, of a rookie quarterback.
Go ahead.
Dwayne Haskins is another guy who should not have played football last year. And Dwayne is my guy in a sense because he's Ohio State, but I've also been clear on this show many times that when he was in Ohio State, I never saw him transitioning to the NFL. He never seemed like that kind of quarterback to me. But when you look again, I look at teams that don't even have playoff hopes, let alone a chance. Why rush these young kids into playing and putting them in these type of positions? And Joe, you're absolutely right. If you fumble 14 balls or 17 balls, how are you only recovering 3 and letting 14, jump away? Unless
there's like 3 pass rushers around him and no one blocking.
Again, and yeah, and I would like to, I mean, for us to make a true assessment, we'd have to pull up the film, watch all 17 fumbles and say, okay, this was the problem. Was this a Cam Newton business decision like in Super Bowl 50? You know, is this a kid not having the awareness of the football? Is this a kid, and as bad as the protection is this a young kid not having pocket awareness? Again, I agree. I think that, and every fan is going to pump up everybody, right? It's no different than, you know, Mahomes, according to Chiefs fans, who's a proven MVP in this. I mean, he's a robot, according to them. Like, he's not even human, the things that he can do. Yeah. You know, Baltimore fans talk to me about how great Lamar Jackson's arm really is, and people don't realize how much he threw last year, and then I look it up, and he had the least amount of pass attempts in the entire NFL. Brady fans, you know, people think that he's this unstoppable machine that can throw 1,000 times a game, and it's, you know, he makes everybody around him better. We're always, as fans, going to pump up our guys to a different level than they really are. But I think that for Daniel Jones, or any young quarterback, whoever it is, whether it's Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, it doesn't matter. When you're young in the league, you have to put them in a position to be able to succeed. And if you want to look at a guy who did succeed last year, but the year before, as good as it was, looked bad sometimes and looked bad in the playoffs, look at Lamar Jackson, the difference between 2018 and 2019 when you actually surround him with a team that can play with him. You know, I also like to point out Baltimore had the third best rated offensive line in the league compared to the Giants, who had the 32nd. That's a big difference in how a player is going to play.
That has to be on coaching, though. I mean, because that O-line is not that bad.
Absolutely. That's why they fired him, right? Yeah, that's why Joe Judge has been brought in. So I think that's where you come at is when a player is not. I mean, the coaching was bad that you put in Daniel Jones. You started the season perfectly. I remember when they came out and said, no, Eli's our guy. No matter what happens, Daniel's going to sit this year and we're going to watch. That lasted 2 weeks. You know,
how about when they benched Eli for Geno Smith? Remember that?
Oh, well, that was brutal. But I also think, too, that this is the problem when it comes to coaches trying to save their jobs. You know, and he knew that his job was on the line last season, right? He got fired right after the season. And suddenly, when you have a coach whose job is on the line, that's where the GM should have stepped in and said, I don't care if your job's on the line. Daniel Jones is going to sit this season because we're not going to win anything. That, or the front office of New York, was just that delusional that they believed they were going to be better than they really were.
Well, let's not pretend for even 2 seconds that the New York media is even semi-fair in their criticism of any player or team of their city. True. Okay? I mean, it's the truth. I mean, 1 minute they are superheroes, and the next minute, if they even look sideways, they need to be dropped, and they should have never been on the team in the first place.
Eli's the prime example of that.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, I mean, we gotta understand that anything that comes out of New York and the media, in my opinion, should be taken with a grain of salt. You should go and look at it yourself and make your own judgments. Like you were saying, a lot of people, you know, how, you know, fans and stuff, they'll support their own player and try to, you know, sometimes forget, as Joe was saying, some of the bad plays that they have.
Well, there's this memory I have of, I believe it was Max Kellerman, if I'm not mistaken. They were calling Daniel Jones, oh, he looks like Tom Brady after one start. Do you guys remember that?
I do.
One start.
That was after Kellerman spent the entire summer ripping this kid apart and saying he'll never be a starter in the NFL. After one start, he had Tom Brady comparisons. Absolutely. And he's a Giants fan, an admitted Giants fan, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the jump. That's
That's what I'm saying. It just gets ridiculous, man.
See, that's why you can't fall into what media is telling you. Get a hold of people who actually watch film and see what in the world the player is actually doing, and let them actually tell you. Like myself, I had so much media, the local media, saying, "Oh, we picked up Roosevelt Nix, you know, the fullback from Pittsburgh. Our run game's going to be even better." And I looked at the film, and I'm like, this dude was god awful last year.
Oh no,
he was off.
Yeah.
He would run through an area, and there would be 2 linebackers there, and he would split them. And he's lead blocking, and he would split them. It was awful. All right. He would block people in the back on special teams. It was, and I'm like, man, I hope that he do. Hey, I'm sorry if you're watching this, Roosevelt Nix, but I hope you don't make the team.
No, no, but you know what? I'll give you an even better example of that. 2018, the Patriots selected Danny Etling in the 6th round. And you have no idea the amount of Patriots fans, Patriots YouTube video makers, talking about how Danny Etling was the future quarterback of the New England Patriots. Or maybe it's, 2018, because 2019 was Stidham. Like, literally, like, I just sat there. It was the 6th or 7th round. I just sat there dumbfounded. Like, do they think that we're going to catch lightning in a bottle like that twice? Yeah. Like that, there's a Tom Brady sitting in every draft in the 6th round.
Easy. Yeah, just snatch it up.
Just grab him up. 7th round quarterback, next franchise quarterback. It's people over evaluate all of their talent, right? It's what we do, which is probably why, because of what we do for a living, I'm probably a little bit harder and more critical on Patriots talent, because I'm trying to be that much objective that I sometimes I probably don't cut them a break that everybody else would, you know? And, but for the most part, that's the way it is. I mean, I laughed, and then they tried to convert him to be a wide receiver the next season, you know? And I was like, yeah, there's your future franchise quarterback.
Right there.
Yeah. Well, it's like last year, man, the Colts drafted Deion Kane, right? I'm sure both of you probably heard his name, maybe. But Deion Kane was highly thought of coming out of college. And he had a great training camp and got hurt, you know, last year or the year before last. And then last year he came back. He made it six weeks before he was let go. Not even let go.
Wow.
And Pittsburgh picked him up.
Yikes. I know I'm actually working on a video, and I know this is not related and I'm not supposed to mention this. But it's about the 2015 Ravens draft class and how I was so hyped on like every pick, and then I just, you know, they didn't meet my expectations at all. So now I just don't get hype on draft picks, you know, or try not to.
I mean, every team has those. Every team has those years where you're like, this was an awful draft season for us.
I'm the same though. If you watch, so I started making videos in 2017. If you watch my 2017 draft, 2018 draft, I'm like, yeah, Derek Rivers is good. Chill out. Let's see what happens. Yeah, don't put too much pressure on Sony Michel. He's a young kid. 2019, man, every second video was about how N'Keal Harry was going to tear up the NFL. You know what I mean? He was going to tear the big body guy. He was going to replace Gronk, even though he's not a tight end. They're going to play him out of the slot. He's going to win every 50-50 ball. He's just going to be this big monster for the Patriots. He ended up with 9 catches for the season. Yeah. So we all get suckered into it at some point. So let's talk about suckers bets. Lawrence, why don't we go through all this sort of second year, third year, and rookie quarterbacks who are going to come into the league this year, and let's just talk about whether we have faith in them or not. And I'll throw this out to you guys. Josh Allen, 3rd year, Buffalo Bills.
Ooh.
I know that Joe has some strong feelings on Josh Allen. Joe, what do you think of Mr. Josh Allen?
All right, well, hopefully our boss Nick is not. Well, actually, Nick, I hope you are listening, because I want you to know
how I feel
about Josh Allen. Listen, Josh Allen to me is the same. I don't feel like he's done enough to disprove me how I felt about him before the draft, right? That's just how I feel on Josh Allen. I feel like Josh Allen is in a very good situation. He has a very good head coach. He has a very good defense, good offensive line, and pretty good weapons as well. All I'm saying is that Josh Allen happens to be on a good team, and he just happens to be average at best, and, you know, that's good enough to make the playoffs. So that's the long and short of it, really.
Okay.
I like Josh Allen. But he needs to take a step forward this year. I'm not going to say he's a perfect quarterback by any means. He's, you know, it's funny we're talking about this because I was reading an article today about Jarrett Stidham, who we'll have to talk about, but Kurt Warner was talking about him, and he was talking about for young quarterbacks, he doesn't have expectations except for being consistent. Not consistently great, but consistent. That's one thing that Josh Allen hasn't been. And this is the year. Just like this is a year for Baker Mayfield and other kind of guys that we're going to discuss today on a third year. If he doesn't improve his consistency this season, then the Buffalo Bills are going to be in a lot of trouble. But from a pure mechanical and the high points I've seen of this kid, I think he has all the makeup of being a good quarterback. It's all going to come now between his ears, and I think all excuses are now over as well, having Stefon Diggs and Cole Beasley and Singletary out of the backfield and a pretty decent offensive line coming into this season, as well as going to be having opportunity because of how good that defense is. This is a season he's really going to have to show it. If he doesn't show it this year, I don't know when he ever will.
Exactly.
All right, so it's on me, and I'm going to agree and disagree with Ray. I'm going to say it in a different way, though. I think he needs to take a step back. As in, not regress, but just step back. Don't worry about putting the team on your shoulders. You got a team around you. Just make sure that, the guys you throw to are open. You ain't got to throw the ball like a major league pitcher. You ain't got to throw 100-mile-an-hour fastballs every time. Just deliver the football to the open receiver. That way you're not got the potential of overthrowing Brown down the field by 20 yards, right?
That's my biggest gripe about it, man.
All you got to do is step back, calm down, and play football. Remember, this is a team game. This is not just about you lifting your team up. You have the team around you. Just deliver the football so that the other players can make plays as well. I think he has a lot of potential. He just got to calm down a little bit.
Yeah. And obviously needs to make better decisions because,
if you calm down, you're going to make better. Things will slow down for you a little bit. You know, he's not worried about, oh my God, I got to get 30 yards every play that I get out. Just remember, 4 yards of play is a first down every time, So
yeah, exactly. And I'm not doubting the kid has talent. Obviously, strong arm, he has mobility. He's very talented. He has those things that you're looking for, especially in a nowadays current day quarterback. But yeah, just the things I've seen, I feel like there's too many negatives for me, just to be able to put my faith in him just yet.
Well, let's stay in the AFC East. Let's talk about Mr. Darnold.
Oh, yeah. And we talked about him the other day, too.
Yes, we did. I'm going to go ahead and let Joe start since Ray initiated the – No, you did initiate, but you came in second. So, Ray, go ahead and let's hear your thoughts about Darnold, man.
Sam Darnold is a kid that, number one, I have to point out that if you go on playerprofiler.com, which is one of my favorite analytical sites in the world, every player in the league, including rookies, has a picture there, and Sam Darnold's the only one who's a Lego head. So that's how much they think of Sam Darnold. And that's about how much I think of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has inflated stats, inflated analytics that make him look better. I think that out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, in the AFC East, he's probably the most polished quarterback in the AFC East. But I think that I truly believe that he has peaked. I saw very little improvement from his rookie season to his sophomore year, and I granted he missed the first few games of the year when he was out with appendicitis or whatever he had there. I watched him see ghosts against the Patriots. I watched him get hammered around by other teams. Some of that's on his offensive line. They had the 24th, I think, worst offense. They had the 24th worst protections in the league or something, or 31st worst protection rating across the NFL. So his offensive line wasn't good. His weapons weren't the greatest. His supporting cast was like 28th in the league. So I'll give him credit. He didn't have the cast he needed, and I'm not necessarily sure that he has the cast he needs now. Now, saying all of that, after ripping this kid to shreds, I also put way more blame on Adam Gase than I do on Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, if New York doesn't move on from Adam Gase in time, they're going to ruin him. Because I think if they would have actually put a real quarterback guru, because for some reason they think that the guy who underachieved with Ryan Tannehill for 10 years is a quarterback guru. If you had Sam Darnold in Tampa Bay right now playing with Bruce Arians, I would probably have a lot more nicer things to say about Darnold. So as much as I think that he peaked, as much as I think that there's a lot wrong with him, this is actually one of those times that I put more blame on the coaching than I do on the actual quarterback.
I think you're absolutely right, Ray. I think you're absolutely right. It's not only the coach, it's just the entire organization, to be honest. So my feelings on Sam Darnold before the draft were I thought he was good. I thought he, in the right situation, could have a good career. But once he got drafted to the Jets, I'm like, R.I.P. Darnold. I'm sorry, man. And the Jets have proved me right on that so far. They have not done anything to help out Sam Darnold. They have not added weapons. And it's too little too late. They're barely starting to build up the offensive line this offseason. They're just drafted a receiver, Denzel Mims, who I like a lot, but let's be honest. Does have drop issues, but also, I mean, the rest of their receivers are just so bad. They have nobody. They literally have nobody.
When their best receiver is their running back, you got a problem.
Exactly. So I think that I do have faith in Sam Darnold, but only if he gets off of the Jets. Plain and simple. I think it's just a fool's errand. They're never going anywhere. I'm sorry. I think Sam Darnold deserves a chance on another team, and I think he could be good.
I like what both of you said. I just want to add a little extra something to that. We talked about the New York system, not just the Giants. We got to look at the Jets too, the media, the fans. When you go into a New York team, there is always so much criticism, whether positive or negative. And you have to have a specific mindset to handle that kind of spotlight, right? I mean, there are millions and millions and millions and millions of people watching you. Just even if the team and everything sucks, they're still watching you because you're, their team, their player. And it's so hard for a lot of people that come into the NFL, even quarterbacks, to be able to handle the kind of pressure that it takes to be a New York sports icon.
Yeah.
And
under the lights all the time.
Exactly. And I think Darnold, I think you guys are right. Personally, I think Darnold needs to leave New York. I think that he'll be much better somewhere else. I think, like, it's very interesting you brought up Tampa Bay, Ray, because that could be an interesting trade later on down the road.
True. And you know where else I would actually kind of like to see him on? The Patriots. I feel like him and Bill Belichick would work really well together. I don't know why. I think he would work well with Bill.
Yeah, it'd be him and more Josh McDaniels, right?
Josh,
that would be. Yeah, I could see the Patriots doing a lot. Oh, the Patriot fans have just turned off my channel now. They've just said the hell with you, right? But yeah, I could that, or I'm going to throw this out there too. I could see him working out in Pittsburgh. To be honest with you, I think he's a guy
that'd be interesting.
He could actually, be that sort of. If you had that opportunity, like the successor to Ben Roethlisberger, it'd probably be a good fit for him as well. Or even the Colts. You know what I mean? To come in after. There's a few good teams out there that I think the system works for them, and the organizational structure is good enough to that we could maybe see the full potential of Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to a new quarterback. We got a lot of them to get through.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and stay in the AFC East and look at that rookie that just got drafted by Miami Dolphins.
Tua
it is.
Now, we've had this discussion. Ray's brought up two quarterbacks already that he thought should not have started their rookie seasons. Ray?
Let's go number 3.
All right.
And I've made it very clear on here too. Tua's coming off another injury-filled season. He's going to a team that has Ryan Fitzpatrick, who will never be a Hall of Famer, will probably never win your team a Super Bowl, but Fitzpatrick's been around the league. He's got a great attitude. He's already said he's ready to mentor Tua. Mm-hmm. And I think that we don't want to Josh Rosen the kid. And Miami's going to be a much more improved team this year. I don't think they're picking in the top 10. You know what I mean? But I also don't think they're making the playoffs. So let me make that clear. I think their defense is well improved. It'll be interesting to see Kyle Van Noy and Landon Roberts, two guys. Well, Landon's always played for the Patriots, but Kyle's a guy who didn't fare well in Detroit, became a superstar in New England, and is now somewhere else. That's a story we've seen a lot. And that could be a massive disappointment in Miami, but he is joining Brian Flores, his former defensive coordinator. That being said, There's no reason to start Tua Tagovailoa. You're not going to make the playoffs. I've already said this team is being built for 2021. Stay the course. Put the kid in a good position in 2021, because when I look at the offense, yes, they have some names, but they're not big names in my opinion, and I'd rather see Tua sit another year, learn to be a pro, heal up, learn and practice, run the scout team, and come in strong in 2021.
I actually want to see Tua play a little, but I don't want to see him start. I don't want to see him play in the first half. I want to make sure, like you say, fully healed. But I wouldn't mind seeing him come in late in games, say if by some freak accident Miami's beating a team 32-10 or something in the fourth quarter. You know, I'd love to see him come in late and have a few snaps on his own, just to kind of get the blood going, kind of get an understanding of how the NFL is, the speed of the NFL, kind of get his feet wet a little bit. But you're right. I don't want to see him start and play a full game at all this whole season. I don't even think I'd want to see. I mean, you got Rosen still there. So if he gets hurt, if Fitzpatrick gets hurt, send Rosen in before you send Tua in, right? Especially early in the season. Early in the season, I wouldn't take that chance. Sorry, Joe. I realized I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. It helped me formulate more thoughts. Okay, so I actually agree with both of you. I think both of you are correct. I think in a perfect world, Tua won't start at all this year, and maybe he'll get like a quarter or two of playing time. That would be obviously best case scenario, because he's coming off of that injury. We want to make sure he's fully healed. However, I think Miami might get desperate and they're going to throw Tua in the fire a little too early. I think I've talked about this before. It's not the decision I agree with, but I think it's something that's going to happen. And this is an even crazier far out thought. And I hate to do this because we have a whole list to get through, but I think you should start Josh Rosen and have Fitzpatrick back him up, because every time Fitzpatrick starts, he's terrible. Right? He is only good when he comes in as a backup or in relief. And I know that's a crazy far out idea. It's not realistic. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Actually, I like your idea, because of the simple fact that what if Rosen starts playing really, really damn good?
That's true.
Right?
You can get him.
And then you're like, well, yeah, I just increased my trade value of my number 3 quarterback.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think there's a big problem here is reports coming out of Miami. It sounds like to me that they're actually considering starting to week 1.
Yeah.
That he's actually fighting for the opportunity to start week 1. And I don't agree with that.
Going to go up your first game of your career. You're going to go up against Bill Belichick.
Have fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah.
All right. So I think now, he doesn't have his name in here, but we could talk about the other AFC East quarterback since we got our specialist there. Yep. He didn't put him on there, Ray. What do you thought about that?
There's not much to say about Jarrett Stidham. He's basically going to be a rookie this year, even though he's a second-year player. He's never had a chance to play before, but he does have a year in the NFL behind Tom Brady. Truthfully, we don't know what we're going to get out of Jarrett Stidham. He had a just absolute fantastic 2017 college career. 28, his sophomore year looked fantastic. His junior year, not so much. Didn't start at Baylor, went to Auburn as a sophomore, did well as a junior, looked awful. There's circumstances around that. His entire offensive line left. His 2 best receivers were injured. I don't like. It's like how I talked about I don't want Tua to play, but didn't talk about how I think he would play. I'm not a big fan out of saying a guy how he's going to play, how he's actually going to look on the field before he gets out there. And I know that when we get to my buddy in Cincinnati, you guys are going to throw something back in my face, but I think it's the time we finally address that in the legs that this thing has grown and over. But look, Stidham's either going to look really good, he's going to look really bad, or he's going to be an average. That's we won't know. I know that the players are saying a lot of things. I was really happy that he's showing actual leadership. He organized throwing with the veteran, with the wide receivers. But not only did he organize and invite the wide receivers to do throw sessions, he also brought Brian Hoyer with him. So he understands the importance of Brian Hoyer sitting beside him too, which shows pretty real leadership, which I think as a quarterback from a mental standpoint, that's what you're looking for. From a physically playing the game, we're not going to know until November who Jarrett Stidham could turn out to be this year.
Well, to be fair, it seems like all young quarterbacks that come in for New England in the last 10, 15 years have played decent in their, when they're backing up Brady, whether it be through injury or whether, suspension or something. I think it has a lot to do with Bill Belichick and the system of the offensive coordinator of just making life easier for young quarterbacks to play, taking a lot of the responsibility off their shoulders. So I think that there is a possibility that Stidham could legitimately look better than what he actually is in New England.
Yeah. I mean, ditto to what both of you guys said. It really, truly is a wait-and-see approach here. But, I mean, if you're a Patriots fan, I think this is going to be an absolute twilight zone of a season, right? Because this can go so many different ways. Say, best case scenario, obviously your defense and running game carries you, and Jarrett Stidham is actually pretty decent, and he's good enough to win games, right? Or he's absolutely terrible, and he gets benched for Brian Hoyer in week 2, and then Brian Hoyer is forced to start, and maybe he's terrible as well, and then maybe the Patriots go out and sign Cam Newton or something. It's just so many different things.
If he's benched for Brian Hoyer, then the world has ended for New England.
But you know what, though? Terrible's not bad. That's the whole thing, right? I think that as a Patriot fan, I need it to go one of two ways. I need it to go either really good or really bad. It can't go in between. That's my nightmare. I have
7-9.
Yeah, I have them going 8-8, and that's my nightmare scenario. Mm-hmm. As much as I think that's what it's going to be, it's also my nightmare scenario because you're not picking in the top 10. But you're also not making the playoffs, and you're kind of, trying to get your quarterback if it doesn't work at the 17th pick or the 15th pick, which means now you're trading a boatload of picks away to get up and draft a quarterback, not forgetting that Bill Belichick does all his damage in the 4th and 5th rounds, and those are the rounds you don't want to get rid of, right? So it's that's where the year is. Saying that, though, Joe, I'll tell you, as a Patriots fan, it's a bit of an exciting year, and that's not me trying to just do it up. It's been the same thing for 20 years. It's been a great 20 years, but it's been the same. This is the first time I'm going into a season going, I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. So it's a little bit exciting in one sense because we are on to a new era, and sometimes change is good. It could be bad. Sometimes it's good.
Yep.
There you go. Now we're going to skip the AFC South because, quite frankly, there is not a third year, second year, or rookie.
You don't want to talk about Phillip Rivers?
How he's in Indy, but I'll make it count.
On to the north.
To the north. Let's talk about the best
Mason
quarterback.
Rudolph.
Yes, the best quarterback in the north,
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph. Well, let's talk about the rookie. Let's start off at the bottom of the barrel in Cincinnati.
Yep.
What
I really want to say.
Yeah.
I will let you guys start, and then no, I need to address this first. I won't even give my opinion. Months ago, I said that if you told me pick who you think is going to be a draft bust, I said it could be Joe Burrow. He has draft bust written all over him. Somehow this has grown legs to me saying that he is 100% a draft bust, and I have gone with it. But for the sake of this conversation, I have to go away from the entertainment purpose and say that I'm not predicting that Joe Burrow is going to be a draft bust. My point is, if I had to say who has a chance to be, it's Joe Burrow. Go ahead, then I'll give my opinion. I don't want to jump in your guys' way, but I just think that has just grown legs on its own, and it has to be addressed right now.
Peyton Manning agrees with you. He's rooting. Break my interception record. Joe.
All right. So Joe Burrow, I think, is actually going to be pretty good. I think he's going to win some games that, you probably wouldn't give him a chance to. I could actually see him pulling off an absolute upset against, like, the Steelers, for example. I could see it happening. I think Joe Burrow is surrounded by a good supporting cast. I think that he has good receivers, especially if A.J. Green is healthy. They just drafted T. Higgins. They have an Auden Tate. They have Tyler Boyd. They have good weapons. Now, the O-line they've worked on, it's a little bit improved. That is my one concern about this Bengals offense, obviously, is the offensive line and the blocking. I think the running game should be fine. I like Joe Mixon. Defense is also a problem, absolutely, which is why I'm not saying that they're going to be, go from bottom to playoffs. That's not at all what I'm saying. I just think that they're going to be fine. I definitely don't think they're going to be in the top 5 of draft picks next year. Maybe not even top 10. They might be better than that.
So, look, I have to agree with Joe in the sense that the Bengals offense looks pretty solid this year. I am very concerned about the offensive line, especially with a young rookie quarterback. Can Joe Burrow start this year and not be ruined? Probably. They're probably good enough to do that. I just sit there and say this is the perfect year to sit a guy like Joe Burrow because your defense isn't good enough to get you to a playoff spot.
Now they have no other choice.
No, now they don't. And that's on Andy Dalton, right? They wanted to keep Andy Dalton, but their intention was always to make him the backup.
Yeah.
This would have been a perfect year to sit Joe Burrow, let him learn to be a professional quarterback. And, we made the joke there about, Peyton's begging break my interception record. And Joe Burrow could do that and still turn into Peyton Manning, right? Or Joe Burrow could have a Baker-esque type of rookie season and then look like Baker in his sophomore year. Again, it's why I've always said that to me, Joe Burrow looks like if I had to pick, hey, which one has the best chance to bust, that means I always pick Joe Burrow. That doesn't mean I don't think that we couldn't see him turn into a superstar. And Joe, you might be right. They could win 8 games this year and kind of pick in that sort of, be sort of like the 15th in the league, 16th in the league, right around kind of where I see the Patriots this season.
Yep. Honestly, I see the biggest chance for disappointment as opposed to where they were drafted at quarterback would be Herbert, but we'll get to that later. Honestly, I feel bad for Burrow because I disagree with you, Joe. I don't think he has much of a supporting cast. I think them grabbing T. Higgins was very smart because I don't think A.J. Green has it anymore. I think A.J. Green has not had 80 catches in a season since 2015.
Yeah, but he's been hurt, a lot.
But you know what I think we're also going to see this year?
That's got to say something.
But you know what I think we're going to really see this year with Joe Burrow there? We're actually now, because of the dual threat they have, we're going to actually see how good we know how good Joe Mixon is, but I think it's going to become very relevant in people's eyes. Mixon is, to me, he's like a Nick Chubb, a very under the radar type of running back. But to me, those are two of the best running backs in the NFL. Like, they are so good, but they just played on these dumpster fires that they kind of just fly under that radar. You know what I mean? That I think that we're going to see a big diff. We're going to see him actually excel this year because you can't sell out for the run game anymore with Joe Burrow behind center.
I will say, even though I have no faith in A.J. Green right now, and I'm sorry, Bengals fans, but you'll like this. I do believe they have finally got their young three-headed monster of the future because I do believe in T. Higgins. I think he will be a very good, 50-50 big body, go up, get the football kind of guy for Burrow. I think Mixon is a great running back when he can stay healthy. So I think that yes, they have their three-headed monster. Now they need to get their supporting cast.
I do want to point out, just for fun, not for anything else, that the second guy on the Green Bay Packers depth chart or draft board was T. Higgins. They did evaluate Jordan Love as a better draft pick for them over T. Higgins, but they were going to take T. Higgins before the Bengals scooped him up.
Oh, crazy. Man, I'll tell you what. Rodgers would have loved to have T. Higgins. Oh, yeah. The way he loves to throw freaking bombs, all 50-yard passes downfield. Oh, my.
That would have been nice.
But now they have Jordan Love, so.
Now Jordan Love can split out wide for him.
There you go.
All right. So we got Burrow out of the way. Let's move on up to the next team.
Baker.
Yep, we are going to talk about that Mr. Mayfield, Mr. Loves to talk, right? But has he backed up that talk lately? Joe, we know your opinion. Let's go ahead and hear it again.
All right. So Baker Mayfield, I got to say, man, he was my favorite quarterback in that draft class out of the top 5. So I really like Baker Mayfield. I was bummed when the Browns took him because, one, I thought that Baker Mayfield could actually be the one to turn around the Browns. So far, hasn't gotten to that yet, but I think he can be good. So I was really bummed. Because I really like Baker Mayfield. But anyway, yeah, man, obviously great rookie season. He came in, in lieu of Hall of Famer Tyrod Taylor for the Chargers. And no, but he came in and obviously looked good, broke the rookie touchdown record. And but then the offseason came and he kind of just lived high off of that rookie season, man. Lived off of that life, got all these commercials, got all this notoriety. He said, "Oh, we got Odell Beckham Jr. I don't need to work hard. I can just step out on the field and win. No problem," right? Sophomore season comes, terrible. It seems like the only thing they were working towards was beating us, Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, which they accomplished 40-25. That was their Super Bowl. And then they only won 4 games the rest of the season. So Baker is kind of in a make or break season, I would say. He needs to come in. He doesn't really have any excuses. They fixed the offensive line. They got rid of Freddie Kitchens. Now, I'm not a huge believer in Kevin Stefanski. We'll see. Kind of a wait-and-see approach. I think it'll be fine. It'll definitely be better than Freddie Kitchens. At least you hope it is if you're a Browns fan. So, yeah, I think Baker needs to have one of those great seasons that, is expected of him because that's such a great team. There's no excuses for him to have such a bad season.
Okay. So very much like how we talked about Sam Darnold and Adam Gase, I had a lot. I was the biggest Baker Mayfield hater last season until I started discovering that it wasn't really all of Baker's fault, and a lot of that came from Freddie Kitchens. I've been pretty impressed with really the whole Browns team this offseason. With Jarvis Landry and Odell showing a little bit of maturity through this offseason, Baker has basically come out and said, I'm going to shut up and play football, which I think is the best thing that he can do. But I do want to just give you a quick quote here from a guy we just talked about, Nick Chubb, which I think sums up the Cleveland Browns in total, which is just an accumulation of what that organization was last year. So Nick Chubb said this about last season. He said, I said it before. I think that we thought we were a lot better than we were. We thought it was just going to happen for us. We didn't actually put the work in. We got this guy and this guy. We're straight. We don't need to actually work. This is just going to happen for us. That was the players' mentality last season. That is 1,000, a million, a trillion, infinity % on Freddie Kitchens.
Yep.
Right? 1,000,000,000%. You could say all the players need to do this. No, the coach needs to set the tone. The coach allowed them to have that mentality and not put in the work. I think the fact that they're acknowledging it, or at least a guy like Nick Chubb, who I think is a quiet leader on that team, is acknowledging it. Again, Baker could be a superstar in this league. And I'm going to put a lot of it on his shoulders. Don't fight with Rex Ryan through the media. Right? Who cares if he calls you overrated as hell or calls you Baker Mudfield? Who cares? You know what I mean? Focus on football. But a lot of his success and his team success this year that just added Austin Hooper to that, star-studded lineup is going to fall. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Kevin Stefanski to get those personalities under control. Not forgetting that they got Myles Garrett on defense, who's again, an underrated Browns defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Mayfield and the Browns got to remember, just because you have talent doesn't mean that it works well together. You actually have to work to make that work well together. Yeah. All the Super Bowl teams that are known for their big offenses, the Colts, the Patriots, the greatest show on turf, right? Those teams, all kind of talent, but they worked their butt off to make it work together. Mm-hmm. Every week, every day, every practice, they spent extra time outside of normal practice. You're always seeing the starting quarterbacks and the top couple receivers on the field or at their house or something like that, outside of normal practice, working together to get their timing down and their understanding of each other down. You got to put the work in to win. It just doesn't come to you. So with Baker saying, I'm just going to shut up and play, well, shut up and work. Right? That's what you got to do. You got to shut up. You got to go in. Us people out here, the normal folk in the world have 8, 10, 12-hour days, 5, 6, 7 days a week. Put that kind of work in one season. That kind of one season. See what kind of what an outcome comes from that, right? See what kind of an you will see a huge difference because you darn near be able to close your eyes and be like, I know that Beckham is going to be right here on a count of two. You know, I know that Landry is going to be crossing me right here, and I could just do a no look like someone else does, you know, because I know that's where he's going to be. You know, I mean, that's the situation. If you work enough with somebody, you just get kind of a second feel for it, to the point where when you're on the field, you can see a defense. You hear about it all the time, where you have a connection with your guys to the point where you don't even have to say, you don't even have to call it out. You just look at the guy and he'll nod and say, "Yeah, I see it. I'll meet you at this."
Yeah. So another quick problem that I have about the Browns, and we don't have to get into it too much, but I'm afraid that they're going to run into this problem that they did kind of last year, which is too many mouths to feed, you know, and especially since they just signed Austin Hooper, they made him the highest paid tight end in the league. You're not going to not give him targets. You know, OBJ wants his catches. You know, Landry wants his catches. Nick Chubb needs carries. Kareem Hunt needs carries. I don't know. I feel like that might cause problems.
I don't think it'll cause problems if they're winning.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Right? Yeah, and I know that that's what's been said about Odell in the past. And I think Antonio Brown was the same. If he got one catch but they won, it was no big deal. If they got one catch and they lost, then it was a big deal, right? Yeah. So, yeah, look, they have all the talent in the world to win. They just need to go out and win now.
Yep.
Exactly.
Or you're right, Joe. There could be a lot of problems heading into later next season.
Yep.
Moving on up to Lamar Jackson.
That's right.
He can go last. Listen,
ready.
I want to see one thing out of Lamar Jackson this year, and that's more pass attempts. Not because I don't think that they can run the same offense and be super successful like they were again. I'm afraid that every player in the NFL is a big hit away from hitting IR or having a season-ending injury. I just think Lamar gets, not because of him, it's because of play calling. I think Lamar gets put into the position where he exposes himself more to it. I'm afraid he's going to Andrew Luck himself. You know what I mean? Where he's just going to absorb so many big hits till everything starts breaking down. I think the kid is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the last 20 years to come out of the draft. And I just want to see him sit in that pocket under that great protection a little bit more and just not take as many blows on the run as he does. Even sliding. I was listening to Matt Ryan talking about sliding, and he was talking about how that still bangs up your knees and rips at your knees, and it still puts damage to your body, even though you're sliding. And I just don't want to see him continuously put himself in a position. He doesn't need to have the most attempts in the league, but I think when you do have an arm like Lamar Jackson, you can't take the least passing attempts in the league either. I'd like to see him just throw the ball a little bit more. And again, I think that's more of a coaching thing than it is a Lamar Jackson thing. I think, and he's talked about wanting to be more of a pocket quarterback than they've allowed him to be. I'm not saying stop the RPOs and stop the runs with him, but I think that I just don't want to see. I don't want to see what could have been career because of injury.
I think it's going to be forced. I think teams are going to stack boxes quite a bit hard, especially up the gut, just to keep Lamar in the pocket. But at the same time, that could work for Lamar quite a bit. I mean, if you stack a box, that means your receivers are one-on-one, and when you got guys out there, yeah. So, I mean, we've seen what Lamar could do. Granted, it was against Miami, but we've seen what Lamar could do if he sits in the pocket, and throws the football. So, and I agree with you. I would like to see him. Don't go outside the tackles as much. I don't mind running, but once you get outside the tackles, you're no longer a quarterback, right? You are an athlete player out there, and guys, the rules for hitting him is different now. Once you're outside the tackles, the rules for hitting him is completely different because you're not a quarterback no more. Mm-hmm. So be careful, because I like you say, I don't want to see him take an injury and then, go, well, what could have been, much dissimilar to RG3 or Mike Vick or something like that.
Or Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, right? Yeah. So I fully agree with you. I'd like to see the guy. A lot of people out there say, well, I would rather have 5 years of superstardom and everything out of one player than 10, 15 years of just good play because he's been playing it safe.
Good plays will win you Super Bowls, man. Good plays.
I would much rather have a longer career with good playing rather than 5 shorter years of, that whole superstardom situation.
So I think before Joe blows up, we should just make sure that we summarize what we said properly. Neither of us think that Lamar Jackson needs to take some sort of step or anything. He already took that step last year. We just want to see him get put in positions to be a little bit safer and protect himself a little bit more.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
All right. Let me tell you why both of you are fools. No, I'm just playing. I actually agree with both of you. I think your criticisms are fair. I actually have some of the same criticisms for Lamar myself. Obviously, the times that there's times that he's able to get out of bounds and he just doesn't even get touched, which is something he's very good at. He's very elusive, able to go to the sideline, get out of bounds, no problem. But then there's those times that he's just like, no, I'm going to lower my shoulder. I'm going to act like I'm, Marshall Faulk or somebody. I'm just going to ram this linebacker and get knocked out. It's just Lamar does need to be better about those types of things. He needs to, care more about his body. Obviously, I think because he's young, he's not really thinking about that too much right now. He's just worrying about making a play, trying to win a game, right? Obviously, he needs to know when the play is done, when to get out of bounds, when to slide, when to whatever. Just get out of, don't get hurt, right? Plain and simple. Yes, I agree. I think that that's definitely something he needs to work on. Also, and I have no doubt that he is going to get better at this because I've seen it firsthand, his improvement, right? I know he can get more consistent while passing the ball, which is why I actually do think, Ray, you will see more passing attempts from Lamar this season. I think that because the biggest criticism that I hear is that, defensive coordinators are going to, figure this offense out. No problem, whatever, blah, 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 right? But the thing is, you guys act like we're not going to change our offense at all. It's not going to be the exact same as last year. There's going to be new wrinkles added in. You're probably going to see a lot more screen passes, which is going to throw defenses off a little bit more. I feel like this is going to be a way more spread out type of offense that you saw last year. And nice. I think we can succeed like that. So, but yes, I do think that we will see Lamar throw a little bit more. I actually predicted that I don't think he will rush for over 1,000 yards this season. I think he will just hit short of that. So
when Frank Reich came into the Indianapolis Colts and he talked to Andrew Luck, he said something that resonated with me. I don't know about the rest of Colts Nation or even if it was heard outside of that group of people, but he looked at Andrew Luck and he said, you don't have to win the game on every play, right? I mean, it's got tons and tons. If you don't make a successful down, you got 2 other downs to get it, right? If so what if you fail on one drive? You're going to have multiple other drives to get the thing done. Protect yourself. Make sure that you're good to go. Now, I understand if you're in the fourth quarter and down 2 touchdowns, you're out there, the game is on the line then. But the game is not on the line necessarily in the first half.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you guys. I think your criticisms are valid. So,
all right.
On to the West.
On to the West. I've already talked about him. I think, and I kid you not, I think Justin Herbert has the biggest bust potential of this draft.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially considering where he was picked.
Yeah.
I would never have picked him that high. I don't think that there was anyone after Tua or Burrow to be picked in the first round, in my opinion.
Not that early. Yeah.
I think they're going to be putting him in a bad situation. But wait, they got a quarterback there, right, in front of him.
Oh, yeah, Tyrod, a superstar.
T-Mobile.
I don't know. I might actually. Oh, good Lord! I don't know who I'd want to start then in that situation.
Anthony Lynn has already said Tyrod Taylor's a starter for this season, or at least to start the season,
which is the right choice.
Yeah, in my opinion. What? Justin Herbert was a guy that Patriot fans really liked coming out of Oregon. I did watch a lot of film on him. When it comes to college quarterbacks, that's where I rely more on film than I do on analytics, because college football is just a little bit different, right? To get a proper good read on statistics. I would have had no problems with the Patriots taking them at 26 or 21, wherever they were picking, you know? I didn't want the Patriots trading up to number 6 or 7 overall to get Justin Herbert. I thought that a number 21 pick would have been a safe first rounder to use. I think that would have been a good enough that would have been it wouldn't have been that risky of an investment. I think using the number 6 on him when you had a lot of great receivers and defensive players there when you're the Chargers, because the Chargers are in a precarious position because they're not really in rebuild mode. They still got Hunter Henry. They still got Keenan Allen. They still, they've got a pretty decent offensive line. They've got an okay defense. Like, they've got veterans on the team. They're not in rebuild mode. They shouldn't have been picking in the top 10 last year by what they had on paper. So this was a precarious year for them to pick. And I agree with you, Joe, or Lawrence, about him being a bust, but I look at him more as, I don't think people are going to turn around and call him a draft bust. I think that they're going to turn around and say LA reached, and it's kind of almost unfair to call him a draft bust because they reached on a kid. I would have taken, if I had to pick somebody 6 overall, I would have taken Jordan Love over Justin Herbert, to be honest with you.
Just because of his ceiling. Because Herbert's ceiling is not nearly as high as what Love was more NFL ready. Herbert is more NFL ready than Love. But that don't mean that he's got the potential, in my opinion, that Love has. Love definitely has more potential, in my opinion. But at the same time, you're not looking for Herbert to walk in and become a franchise quarterback that's, that can put a team on his back. I just don't see that. And at number 6, I wouldn't pick a quarterback that high unless I felt that he was that kind of quarterback.
And Joe, right before you go, I want to say that I think the Colts got the same value in Eason in the 4th round. Did they take what round did they take Eason? 5th? 4th? 4th. I think that the value they got getting Eason in the 4th compared to Herbert in the 1st is night and day. Wow. And I actually compare the two of them. I really do. I mean, there was a time that people wanted the Patriots to take Eason with the 21st. Like, he was a guy that his draft stock just fluctuated up and down, right? And it's because he's not NFL ready, which is fair. He wasn't ready to start this season. But, I put Justin Herbert in the same sense. I don't think he's NFL ready. And I'm not a big Tyrod Taylor fan anymore. Used to be the biggest Tyrod Taylor fan, but he let me down way too many times, made me look absolutely stupid. But I would play Tyrod all 16 games this year, no matter how bad things got, because don't put in Jacob Eason. Hope that he can sit behind Tyrod, who's actually a really good leader and really quiet in the dressing room. It's not like he's a bad guy. You know what I mean? Try to learn from Tyrod how to be a professional and just hope for the best.
All right. So Herbert, I think, could... I wish I could disagree with you guys, but yeah, I don't like Justin Herbert either. I'm sorry. I do think it's possible that Justin Herbert could be this year's Josh Allen. And now that may sound negative coming from me, but the reason I say he could be this year's Josh Allen is because he's a quarterback I'm not very high on. I don't think is very good. However, he's going into a very good situation, and he could look a lot better than he actually is, a la Josh Allen. Because pretty good coach, good defense, good offense, good surrounding cast, So I think Justin Herbert could come out, have some good games, maybe win a few. And again, obviously, best case scenario, he doesn't start this season, but he probably will, because the Chargers are probably going to panic if Tyrod throws like 2 picks in a game or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what I think about Herbert. Best case scenario, you get like a Josh Allen type quarterback for me.
I agree.
Yeah.
At the most. All right. Drew Lock. I think of all these guys that we're talking about, I think that this is the year that he needs to step up more than any of the other players that we're going to talk about, mainly because of the supporting cast he has around him. If he does not make a big jump because of the supporting cast that has been put around him, then that's going to say a lot about his future, in my opinion.
Totally.
Joe?
Yeah, again, I know a lot of people are really high on Drew Lock. I am not one of those people, but I'm also not just totally, writing him off either. I think there's a potential, especially with, the receiving options he has are just insane. The offensive line, obviously, a little bit of a concern, but it's getting better. But yeah, he has a great supporting cast. That defense is pretty solid. They added some good pieces this past offseason.
Maybe the best running back stable in football.
Right. They have and again, so Drew Lock, he's also kind of in that situation that he doesn't necessarily have an excuse to be bad, so he can't really be bad.
Right.
I love Drew Lock. You guys know I love Drew Lock. Lost one. He played 5 games last season. Let's not forget he's going into his first full season as a starter this year too. We only started 5 games at the end of the year last year. Yep. Went 4-1. Only lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Even if Drew Lock made 0 improvement from last year, this is a guy who I think has this year's chance to be Josh Allen. When you're talking about just from a running back standpoint, Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, then he's got Cortland Sutton, he's got Jerry Jeudy, he's got Deshaun Hamilton, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick. I love Noah Fant, who was their first-round draft pick in 2019. It was him and Hawkinson who were on the same team that both came out. Hawkinson was obviously the more desirable guy. Fant was the second, though. Just the weapons around him is going to make him even better, even if he doesn't take a step forward. He's also, unfortunately for him, he's got the pressure of being a draft pick from Denver, where it hasn't worked out. Brock Osweiler, Tim Tebow. It's just been one after another that really didn't work out. The last one that I would say was their best shot was Kyle Orton, which really, how well did that work out?
Don't forget about Paxton Lynch.
Oh, Paxton Lynch. Jesus.
Yeah.
But I like Drew Lock. I liked him coming out of the draft. I was, upset to see him get injured last year and not play a whole season. But I like the coaching staff in Denver. It's a defensive-minded coaching staff, so they're not going to ask him to do too much. The offensive coordinator is very safe, and with the weapons that he has and the fact that Cortland Sutton is in love with him, and Cortland's one of the best receivers in the league that just hasn't played with great help at the wide receiver position, I think we're going to see an improvement just by the weapons they have around them, as long as Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler turn into what they're supposed to be. And people talk about Jeudy and Hamler. Hamler's probably 4th on the on the depth chart behind Deshaun Hamilton. You know what I mean? Who's sort of their flank. So I think we're going to see a big improvement out of Drew Lock this year. I've already said that Denver is going to be the most improved team in the NFL this season.
Yeah, I think. There's no excuses for him not to succeed. And if he doesn't succeed, that's what I'm saying. A lot of eyebrows will be raised.
But I think that what we should keep into consideration, given that this hits first, and I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm really not, but being his first full year as a starter, we could see still some rookie mistakes coming out of him as he goes down the stretch, right? So again, with all these young guys, the third-year guys are no excuse whatsoever. The Jacksons, the Bakers, you know what I mean? Like Allen, Darnold, you're now going in your 3rd year. The second years and rookies, we got to take in consideration. Those are the 2 development years for quarterbacks. Right?
But I'll throw this back. You also see the second year of some of these quarterbacks be the launching point. Look at Lamar Jackson, MVP season. Patrick Mahomes. Jared Goff had that season too. Obviously didn't,
what happened?
Take that launching point.
Yes, there is launching points, but we've also seen guys. Tom Brady took a step back his second year and then won the Super Bowl the next year, right? So the second year, what I'm looking for to a second-year quarterback is not necessarily wins. It's an improvement on consistency. I think as a rookie and a sophomore, you shouldn't have to win games for your teams. Hey, guys like Lamar and Patrick Mahomes did. All the power to them, right? Hang your hat on that. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not looking for Drew Lock to win games for Denver this year. I'm looking for him not to lose games for Denver. By the time he works into year 3, now you have to win games for the Broncos, games you're not supposed to win, or if your guys are dropping passes or things aren't working, figuring out how to win a game. That's how I look at quarterbacks.
I do agree, but at the same time, with the roster this team has, with the offense that you just named off, with the defense that is just stacked, if they don't make the playoffs, and they're in a good division, if they don't make the playoffs, it's a disappointing season.
Yes, for the entire team, because Jerry Jeudy could be a bust, Hamler could be a bust, and he's playing with the exact same weapons he had last year, except for Melvin Ingram now playing running back. but you're talking two big receivers who you thought he's going to have. So I wouldn't necessarily say be all in lock. I think as a whole team, if they don't make the playoffs this year, it's going to be a massive disappointment. If they don't, I'm not going to turn around and think it could necessarily be Drew Lock's fault. He could take a step forward, and his new receivers are just don't live up to the hype, right? And we've seen that many a times too. We talk about quarterbacks all the time. How many times have we seen a wide receiver not live up to the hype of his draft? You know what I mean? And who he is.
Well, and sorry, Lawrence, but I was just going to say, and let's not forget that the AFC is stacked with a bunch of really good teams. So, you know, if the Broncos at least get there, I don't know.
If they're at least 9-7, I won't be disappointed.
Yeah,
and that is a playoff caliber record.
If this team plays to the ability it's supposed to, all the players, Locke cannot lose a game for them. They cannot turn around and say that loss is on Locke. Right. I don't think he needs to carry the team this season. I don't expect that on a second-year guy, first year as a starter. But I do expect you at this point not to lose a game. And to me, that's really the telling point. Yeah, this could be a launch point for him, and we've seen it with other quarterbacks. But I think from an expectation standpoint, because I think sometimes we put expectations too high on young quarterbacks, my expectation is you cannot lose a game for them this season. You know what I mean? Okay. And if he does one, maybe it's one. But if it's a consistent where they won despite Locke, now it's an issue.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the NFC finally and talk about the great and amazing and you can't say anything bad about Dwayne Haskins, right?
Hey, let me go first on this because I'm actually a Dwayne Haskins supporter. I don't think you guys are very high on Dwayne Haskins, but I actually like what he showed. And again, it's not a lot of positives. There was mostly negatives. I'll give you that. But let's not forget he's on Washington, right? Just a terrible organization, historically terrible. He's getting weapons. I really like Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, your guy as well, Ray. Give him a shot. You know, I just don't want to write him off after one bad rookie season. He was thrown into the fire. They didn't even give him a chance with the playbook. They gave him 4 plays to practice from what I remember hearing. I'm just saying, give him a shot. You know, maybe he improves this season. I think we might see a little bit of an improvement from Dwayne Haskins.
I so badly want Washington to sign Cam Newton just this season.
Oh, my goodness.
And I want Dwayne Haskins to play a year behind Cam Newton. They play a very similar game. You know what I mean? I don't think Washington is really going to support him again this season. And look, and Dwayne is my boy, man. That guy brought us to a national championship. We lost, but he brought us to a national championship, you know? I love Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins is my boy. I had concerns about him going into the NFL. He proved my concerns when he got to play last year. But I agree with you 100%, Joe. He was in an awful, awful situation. And I think he's going to be in an awful situation this year, too, even with some of the moves they made. I like that he's playing under Ron Rivera. I think that's the coach for him. I would love for them, though, to bring in Cam Newton, let the kid sit one more year, get last year off the books, play behind Cam, get some success, then become the starting quarterback. And I think that he could possibly be something, or maybe they'll just be nice and trade him to somebody who can actually knows how to use them. And no, but we got to see though. Again, I like Ron Rivera, and I think that Ron Rivera could be a good coach for him.
Sure.
All right. So here's the situation with me. How weird would it be? Would you call it the Washington Panthers if Cam Newton went there? I mean,
reunited.
You just got done saying, well, Dwayne Haskins comparable to Cam Newton. They should bring Cam Newton in and show him how to play it because Ron Rivera already coached Cam Newton for how many years? Might as well. Heck, let's go out and get a couple wide receivers from there too, and maybe a running back, you know. Mm-hmm. No, I do agree. I think if anyone knew how to use talent of Haskins, it would be Rivera because obviously, right? But let's not make the mistake of thinking that he is the next Cam Newton. Okay, I'm gonna put it out here on the table. Haskins does not have Cam Newton's physical traits. Okay, he's quick, he can move, but I mean, Cam is a big dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is a bulldozing quarterback at his size, and he's got a cannon. Yes, Haskins, but I see more of a Vic than I do a Cam. All right, with Haskins, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I still like the idea of bringing Cam in and letting Haskins sit. Because I agree. I think that first year, kind of very similar situation with with Darnold being in with the Jets, right? It was an awful situation his first year. God awful.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to be there.
Nope.
Haskins, same situation. So yeah, I think that they need to find somebody. Well, first off, they need to get that offensive line completely and utterly figured out, especially since they just got rid of their best offensive lineman.
Oh yeah.
I mean, dear Lord. So yeah, they need to figure some things out there. And I think if someone is able to do that, I think Rivera will be.
And I think Washington just needs to change their mentality, man. I remember we saw a game. I don't know if it was like a mic'd up or something, but Dwayne Haskins was telling his offensive line, like, what do I need to do? Like, what? Just tell me what I need. And they just did not even care. They weren't even listening. It's like, we don't care, man.
No. And I think that's where Ron Rivera is going to change the mentality a little bit. Yeah. I mean, listen, I felt a little bit bad for Gruden because they kept him a little bit too long as the head coach. He's one of those guys, great coordinator, not a great head coach, right? And I think who's he playing? Who's he with now? I know he's the offensive coordinator.
Jags?
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And we could actually see him and Gardner Minshew create a little bit of magic this year because I think he's a better coordinator than as a coach. Speaking of the AFC, that's a team we actually skipped was Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, someone that he hadn't talked about because he didn't have him on the list, I don't think.
No.
I mean, it's the Jags.
I guess so.
It's sad to say, but
so who's left? Kyler Murray?
That would be the guy that's left.
That's that's one we're ending with, right? Because that's the guy. Like, save the best for last, man.
Right.
I love Kyler Murray. You guys know that. I have a man crush on him. I'm not ashamed to say it. I love that little guy. He's like my special little buddy. What is he? 5'10", 207 pounds. Good for you.
Kyler Murray. That's what they call him.
Listen, Kyler Murray is the kind of guy that if you want to make an argument about analytics and why they don't work, Kyler Murray is the guy to do because the eye test on him is just so lovely to watch. And maybe my eye test is wrong and I'm just thoroughly entertained by watching him play football. But I wasn't high on Kyler Murray when he got drafted. Go watch videos from last year. I thought they were stupid to move on from Josh Rosen. I thought, give the kid a chance. Why would you do this?
I
blah,
agree.
blah, blah, blah.
Way.
And then I watched Kyler Murray play. And from the moment I saw him play, which was late in the year, guys, I'm going to admit, I didn't even want to pay attention to him. The moment I watched, but it was a boring 1:00 slate, and I switched over and threw on the Arizona game, watched him play a series, was mesmerized by watching him play, and I didn't miss an Arizona game the rest of the season. Very much like I don't miss a Lamar Jackson game. I'll watch a replay or at least extended highlights if I missed the game. Same with Mahomes. Don't tell Patriots fans. I'll always make sure to watch him. Same way I always watched, Andrew Luck, the big Andrew Luck fan, even though I hated Indy. And I hate all the teams I'm talking about, by the way, like, in the AFC. But
it's like the quarterbacks.
Yeah, but Kyler Murray is one of those guys that I actually fell in love with. I think having DeAndre Hopkins this year is going to be huge for him as long as he doesn't, and it's similar to what we were talking about yesterday, Lawrence, as long as he doesn't Deshaun Watson it and just only target DeAndre Hopkins and make sure he spreads the ball around. I also seen Kenyon Drake absolutely rejuvenize his career ever since going to Miami. I think that's going to be important for Kyler Murray's development. You know what I mean? Just to take a little bit of pressure off of his arm and let run the ball a little bit. I love Murray. I expect him to take a step forward. I don't expect them to make the playoffs because they play in the hardest division in football, or one of the hardest divisions with San Francisco and Seattle. But I think we're going to see them take a big step forward this season, and they're probably another year away from being one of the better teams in the NFL.
I have a question for you, Ray.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that the Cardinals drafted him with the thoughts of this could be our Russell Wilson?
Yes, 110%. Because if you watch him play, he's like a little version of Russell Wilson.
They're supposedly the same size as well.
Yeah, but Russell, what I've realized is the guy is all torso. Like his legs are short and stubby.
Yeah.
But you watch him run, and it looks like his legs aren't moving because they're so small. It looks like they're not moving, and yet he is flying down the field. He is so entertaining to watch. He has a solid arm. I cannot believe how strong his arm is. He does need to be more consistent, though. He looked like a rookie quarterback in the sense of overthrows and making some bad decisions, and this is where analytics will throw him off a little bit. But you know what? Let's also not forget that Arizona had 23 drop passes last season, which would have changed a lot of what he did. My issue is 23 danger plays, 18 interceptable balls. You know, I'd like to see him just 1% lower. You know what I mean? The whole way down, just to be a little bit safer.
18 interceptable balls for a season, though, isn't that bad.
That's on top of his interceptions, right?
Yeah.
But again, 1% lower. I don't need massive improvement there. 1% lower, and he becomes a really, really solid quarterback as he develops. Yeah. I think there's a really high ceiling for him. Whether he'll be a superstar this year, I don't know, but I think that his ceiling is through the roof, and if he could take a step forward, I think a lot of people are going to see how good this kid really is.
I feel comfortable in saying that Kyler Murray could very well go out there this season and have an MVP caliber season. I feel very comfortable saying that. Now, the thing is, will he win MVP if he has that type of season? I'm not sure because, again, like you alluded to, Ray, that division is so tough, and they might not even make the playoffs. They could go 9-7, 10-6, but, I mean, and they could sneak in, but maybe they won't. Now, if they make the playoffs, if they somehow win the division, which is obviously an arduous task, I think Kyler Murray, no doubt, would be the MVP, the favorite for MVP. I think Kyler Murray is exciting to watch. Absolutely exciting to watch. It's so fun to watch him run around because he's just so, it's like, I mean, just a little man running around so quick, but it's so fun to watch. And he has a cannon for an arm too, which is so crazy. One of my biggest concerns about him coming out was that I feel like he would do a lot of one reads, right? Only one read and then just not move on to that was my concern about Kyler Murray. Obviously he can work on those types of things and he has to be a little more consistent. So, but yeah, if there's a quarterback that I can see having that type of Mahomes type Lamar leap, it could definitely be Kyler Murray this season. I could see that.
Well, I mean, what all wide receivers did he have to throw to last year?
Larry Fitzgerald is really his only
one. They drafted like 4.
Well, hold on. I said last year. I mean, when all you have really, they
have Christian Kirk, Larry Fitz,
okay, Christian Kirk ain't bad. Christian Kirk ain't bad. I'll give you that.
He had Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. Did they have Johnson last year too?
David Johnson?
No, Keyshawn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Keyshawn. Yep. They had Keyshawn.
Keyshawn Johnson.
He's okay. Yeah, he's not great, but he's not bad. You know what I mean?
But now that you got
Hopkins is a game changer. Yeah.
It is, but I think that Kenyon Drake was a game changer for them last year as well. Because they actually had a bit of a consistent running game with him. David Johnson was useless, like absolutely useless last year, right? And when they traded Miami for Kenyon Drake, things changed for them, and they probably played themselves into a worse draft pick. You know what I mean? Because of what Kenyon Drake brought. So I think bringing him and DeAndre Hopkins to the board, if Kenyon Drake can look like he did last year, I mean they could get one of those that second wild or third wild card spot for sure. I don't think they're going to win the division. That's just too tough of a division to win. But you never know. It's a big task, but you never know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, guys, but every time you come up with that name, Keyshawn Johnson, I just think my brain is not thinking some young. I'm like, did he come out of retirement after 20 years? I mean, it's like in 10 years from now, Ray, you're sitting there going, yeah, and the quarterback for Miami is Tom Brady, and you're like, what? So, I'm having a little bit of problem still registering that every time that name comes up. I can't help it.
There's also another guy in Arizona that I'm hoping takes a big step forward this year, and he didn't look, that well, and that's Andy Isabella.
Oh, yeah. He was good.
Yeah, and if he can take, he had a great college career, and then he was really invisible last year. And I think if he can take a step forward this year too, that's going to help that team even more.
You know who else Well, sorry, Lawrence, but you know who else I was super high on that they drafted was Hakeem Butler. Got injured last season. We'll see.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
If there's a team, if there's a division in the NFC that's going to send 3 teams, it'll be that division.
Right.
I agree. It's a tough division.
Well, the NFC South could be up there as well. So it's
maybe I think there's you got the Saints and the Tampa Bay. I don't think Atlanta's going to be there, and I think Carolina. As much as I like Teddy Bridgewater, I really like Teddy Bridgewater, and I mean obviously you have the could be go down. I mean, you could be talking Jim Brown territory when you're talking about running backs, with McCaffrey. But I don't know if Carolina is there. I just don't know.
Oh no, the entire NFC South is making it, right? I mean, you got the Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's the North.
That's the North. That's the North.
Okay.
You got the loins.
Mitch Trubisky's gonna have just third year guy, or fourth year, gonna just jump, leapfrog everybody. He's gonna Patrick Mahomes like.
Yeah, he's going to make Aaron Rodgers look sick, and still Aaron Rodgers with no extra wide receiver help is going to win the division.
No, but Jordan Love is going to run for 600 yards and receive 1,000.
Yeah. And then Kirk Cousins is going to prove that he deserves all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's the most underrated quarterback in the NFL.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've been here an hour and a half. I think this is the longest stream we have ever done.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think so. We have our boss to thank for that because of the list of names that he dropped on there.
Well, in fairness, we got to our second quarterback and we were already at the 40-minute mark. I knew this was going to be a long one.
This was going to be a long
one.
But it's okay, man, because we got to get through a bunch of names. We didn't talk about Gardner Minshew, but that's all right. Man. We've talked about him plenty in the past.
He wears jorts, tank tops, and has a mustache. That's all you guys need to know.
That's all you got. Yeah. Swag. That's what he's got.
Yeah.
Drip actually is what the kids call it now.
I don't. Whatever they say.
Come on, yo, you're not down with this, yo. You don't know the slang, dog. Come on. Actually, I think that's from my time. Never mind.
Yeah. That's the '90s, bro.
Very '90s. Yeah. That's okay.
LMAO, man. LMAO. What can I say?
There you go.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us here on Sportscaster. If you are not following Ray or Joe, don't forget to click on them. Don't forget to click on me as well. Make sure you follow. If you can't follow, that means you don't have a profile. What the heck are you doing watching this without a profile? Spend 30 seconds, make a profile, come back, give us a follow. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen with Ray Rauth and Joe Noobo, and I want you to have a good one.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Later.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.